Welcome to 4C's One Family, where we share thoughts and opinions concerning life in Taiwan, the region, and the world. I'm your host, James Thomas, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan, and I'm so glad to have you traveling along with me on this journey. And welcome to the show. Welcome to Rant Session. I'm going to call these little impromptu bleeps I give, call them rant sessions, because I'm just going to be ranting a little bit. And we had a little technical problems just now, but it's a little frustrating, especially when you're trying to do so much about yourself, trying to make it look good and sound right. It becomes a pain sometimes, and a little demoralizing to my self-esteem, I'll say that. But look, let's get back on the ride here. You know, I was walking down the street, and I had my iPad with me, and I opened it up and saw something in the news. And something that's very interesting came up, and has to do, it relates quite to where I'm from. And if you look below, I wrote in the description here for Rant Session One, I wrote this. It is possible in democratic nations to correct and rewrite history that took away the rights and privileges of innocent people accused of crimes they didn't commit. Democracy and moral cooperation prove that no matter the situation or misguided decisions made, democratic nations provide the impetus for self-correction. Self-reflection at personal and national levels is something people of all governments and nations should be obligated to do. When I was a student in the U.S., 我这一次的转播用英文，拍谁？对不起。I came from an era where civil rights was something to be protected. You know, we had very powerful leaders such as Dr. Martin Luther King, 金恩博士, that's right. And people like Malcolm X. We had groups that felt that the only way they can get rights for people of color, African Americans, was to make their movement weaponized, the Black Panthers. There were other groups that even took a more forward approach, such as the Seminolese Liberation Army and Patty Hearst's story. Some of you probably know about that. Thanks for the thumb up. If any comments, please leave it below. I really would appreciate it. Even though I'm not able to provide much content at the level I want to, because I just want to make sure that primarily because of the location I'm in here in Taiwan, the place that I've learned to love, I don't want to be creating things that just only talks about how good the food is here. I want to create things that may be a little bit controversial in a mature way and make people think. But that's not something that people can quite easily popularize or weaponize. No, not weaponize. I mean, finance. How would you say? Make it of monetary value, because most people here on YouTube really want entertainment, or at the very least, infotainment. I'm trying to take a more mature, analytical step into what I produce here. And it does take time, but everybody has their limits, right? But we all have our powerful points, or point that we can bring out to people, and hopefully people have enough ears and maturity to listen. But moving right along, I grew up in that era, quite violent era, but luckily I was put in situations, sent abroad and stuff like that, and was able to meet people of all different backgrounds, or people who've never seen people look like me. I remember one time in China, I walked into a small town. I've never seen an African-American black person before, and I told a little kid, everyone else in China looks like me. You're the only people here that look like you. And I feel guilty up to this day. The kid probably grew up and looking to kick me in the cans, but moving right along. And this particular thing that prompted me to open my big mouth today and rant a little bit, maybe it's not even a rant, it's just opinions, is something related to the assassination of a man called Malcolm X. Follower of the Nation of Islam, had a little bit of outfalling with the group, was assassinated in 1965, I think, yeah. And about 48 hours ago, maybe, it was official that two of the people accused of killing him, assassinating him, were exonerated because someone took the time to put together a documentary. I can show you the headlines here. I hope I don't get queued up for this. This is from Washington Post. I can't show you the article, but someone did a documentary called Who Killed Malcolm X? And it caused quite a stir. And this documentary actually focused on the person, or they pointed to who really assassinated him. There's 3 people were sent to prison. 2 of them have passed away, but the beginning of the film focused on the person who actually did the killing. But what happened later, as the film moved on, the investigator and the filmmakers that worked into this, they shifted on to those 2 individuals who were considered who were not responsible for the killing. Now, I'm not going to go heavily in depth into that. I just want to show that, democratic nations are not always the fastest, and sure not the you could say perfect. No nation is. I don't care. There's no Wutuobang, as they say in Mandarin, utopia. But if you are willing to put aside your selective amnesia and your, how would you say, ultimate opinions of always getting what you want in your goals, and being able to sacrifice some of the things that you can share with others in order to get to a moral objective, social objective for all people, most positive things can be done. I don't think no nation is at that level yet. But I'm lucky to see what I see today as related to the assassination of Malcolm X. Because I remember going through elementary school, reading a lot of books about Malcolm X and how he stood up for rights and said some things that actually upset the government, people like J. Edgar Hoover, who may be partly responsible for ramrodding of a lot of the racial situation and negative impacts that happened to some African Americans. African Americans. I'm talking about everything from Selma up to probably leading to the death of Dr. Martin Luther King. But it just shows me that in my home nation, which once again, I'm not considering as being someplace that's perfect, we are allowed to investigate. We are allowed to make a course correction and make some corrections or exonerate those who have been accused under false pretexts. This is something I'm really happy to see, though. But I also see how it was so easy for me at a young age to be, I'm not going to say the word indoctrinated, on how I absorb information and how in my heart I've built up so much frustration, anger to want to stand up and do something right for not only people who look like me, because over the years, I've learned to take a more global approach to people in general. Because sometimes we get caught in our corner of the room. And the thing is, we just face the corner. We don't turn around and see the wider angle in this room. And because that's what the world is. We need to take a wide angle view, even though you may not like it. So I'm looking at this article and I'm like saying, wow, I was reading this stuff in school and learning about, who may have killed these great people in our nation who fought for obviously the right things. But then as I get older, things are not always what they appear to be, right? I'm lucky to come from a nation that allows for this type of course correction. It's like if you're going to the moon, right? If you shoot a rocket off from Cape Canaveral and going to the moon, if you keep going straight, you're going to miss the moon. No matter how much calculations you did, when you get off that launch pad and head to the moon, you keep going straight, you're going to miss it. So what do? Every 6 seconds? 6 seconds. Now, how long it takes to get from the Earth to the moon? Every 6 seconds, you have to adjust your course. Every 6 seconds. You have to be calculating your position, recalculating, correcting your faults, so you can hit your bullseye. It's the same thing in life, I guess. We're always going to be going a long course, but the course we may aim at the beginning may not be the course that we end at in the end. And if we're too stubborn to change our course, we will miss our mark. We will miss our mark. Now, we all can choose what our goal is or our target is, but hopefully it is a moral choice. So in my heart, coming from the South Bronx, it's like, wow, I remember hanging out with people, we sitting on the sidewalk talking about this book and talking about, how we're going to change our course direction. Some of my friends were quite willing to go to extreme measures to get their voice heard. Yeah. But I see how easy it is to be misdirected. Yeah. I see how important it is, or how dangerous it is, to not be willing to change your course direction. Because you will miss that damn target if you don't, every so often, maybe more often than you would like to, readjust your course. That's right. A rocket every 6 seconds. In our life, we should be willing to change our mind based on new information. And luckily, I come from a place, I'm not saying it's perfect, but there is impetus to change course and make it better. Now, the way people from democratic nations change their course is a lot slower than nations that put a heavy-handed approach on people and make a course direction no matter what. Or for certain people, Trangui, of people in their population who have certain power and privilege or whatever. All nations have a group like that. Whether you want to call them Mandarin Trangui or you want to call them the Illuminati or whatever, or some kind of triad, 绑块, or 绑派, 对不起. So no matter what. And this is the point. Are most of us willing to make a self-correction, not only in our own personal lives, but around the people that we communicate with, intermingle with, converse with? Because some of us are afraid. That word, what do they call that word again? Everybody does not like. Hey, how you doing? Basque, hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. Because here I need all the help I can get, right? Thank you. Yeah, I'm here. I had a little connection problem there a while ago. And, I'm back though. I don't like to lose though. But as I was saying, if you're not willing to make a course correction, you're going to find yourself stepping on your own toes. And I'm talking about pro this or pro that. I don't care what part of the basket case you may be in or come from. I can really care less. But as long as you focus on the right things, some of you may not know of something called critical race theory in the United States. When I looked at critical race theory over a couple of years, actually, I looked at it hard for the past 4 years and kept quiet on it, but I looked at it. And I've seen a lot of conflict about it, and also a lot of misdirection, even coming from my own community back home, in my home nation. Not many people in my host nation knows about it, but my host nation has their version of CRT too. But I see certain people of all sides that are propagators or salesmen of conflict, right? In Mandarin, I call it 贩卖仇恨者. They sell hate. They are salesmen of hate. Not necessarily truth, but hate. And are sort of quite destructive to the overall existence of the United States. Which, once again, I don't consider it's perfect, but it's as what I see, the best you can, one of the best imperfect places you can ever be in currently. And that can be a blessing too. Because imagine if you are someplace that is totally perfect, you have nothing else to aspire to. But moving right along. I've learned now, even though back then I've seen it as a destructive element, because I've seen people from communities that felt that no one was listening to their voices. I've seen them get into protests, what you want to call it, BLM, that's right. I've seen Antifa and these other groups that's totally at each other's throats. But I also see that they're being promoted to do or to further, how would you say, enhance their disagreements with each other, which is just destructive for the whole nation as a whole. But a lot of them are getting, without them, some of them know them, some of them may not, by external nefarious forces. And that includes governments. And some of these that, if you studied anything about how the KGB, I did two episodes on that, how the KGBs use what they call useful idiots, or 骗子, or shills, as they call it in English. How they used these people to propagate their ideologies in democratic nations. Soviet Union is not the only nation that does this. It's just the terminology is different. But if you look back, you can see it's just a gameplay. But regular people who really do not have that much of a financial or personal investment in certain things, we can't see this. We just want to live our lives normally. We all do, right? But sometimes if you find yourself in a situation when you have to speak up, what do? Stay quiet or put yourself out there? And the majority of us will not do that. But moving right along. It caused me to rethink some of my ways of thinking, especially about CRT. And at first I saw this, you got people who felt this hardened, they feel out of luck. They see their certain businesses leaving the United States. Just face it, guys. You hear stories about such and such a nation took our jobs away. Actually, it's more than that. Some of our jobs were taken away because I'm talking about, at least in America, maybe some parts of North America, is because we didn't prepare for it, or we thought that the world was not going to change and just stay behind. No. Western democratic nations, we educate people from other nations that take the knowledge back home and provide for their own home nations. And they become our competitors, which is probably not that all bad because competition is good. We all have to make ourselves irreplaceable in some ways, right? Because if we don't, we will be replaced. We're moving right along. That's a whole different episode. I just want to bleep in on this. So now I'm looking at it as a different way. I mentioned that, you got people in the States saying that they are idolizing certain people from certain parts of, say, revolutionary movements, right, in the past. I'm not going to mention too many names. And they're bringing it back and causing America to have their own cultural revolution now. The U.S. has been to quite a few, maybe about 4 major internal revolutions. But this is another cultural revolution that America is going through now. And usually it becomes quite unpredictable when people of the lotus, of you say, the majority of people who do not have who have a lot of, say, physical presence in the nation that can cause a lot of conflict or disruptions. When that energy is put together for negativeness or misused for the destruction of a whole nation, that becomes dangerous. We've seen this happen, for example, in the Cultural Revolution in mainland China, where primarily the people from the younger population who were poor generally got together and really caused some disruptions of what? Destroying the old, bringing the new what? Well, that's a whole different topic and not what I want to talk about here. So I've now become more leaning to something called critical history theory, because the only way we can learn about what we should be doing in the future is to look at what we did in the past objectively without it looked at things that happened in the past without prejudice. Yeah, that's something like quote that came out of one of these Clint Eastwood movies, right? And this is going to be hard for a lot of us. And this will cause some people, such as myself, to be canceled. To be canceled from even your own community. Because you end up saying things people who are or were close to you don't like. Because they refuse to change the course of their way of thinking every so often. And this is dangerous. But if somebody's not willing to open up their damn mouth, what's going to happen? You see things recently happen. In the news, you probably know the situation that's going on with mainland Chinese tennis player Peng Shuai. She came out and said that a certain high-ranking government official who's like 75, 60 years old abused her sexually and whatever, boom, boom. And now she's kind of like not around anymore. Not publicly. And you got a message that came out publicly saying that, don't use my name without this, get facts straight. But where is she? And I bring this up because it's good to see that people in her field actually saying, yeah, where is she? It took some guts for Peng Shuai to do what she did. She has a lot of cojones, in this situation. And that is so respectful. I admire her for that. I really do. Because she was on the top. She could have took her money bag and disappeared. But she didn't. She put her comments up on Weibo, and 20 minutes later, actually 19 minutes and 37 seconds later, it was gone. Was it taken down by authorities or AI or what? But this is something scary. But I'm proud of her because Peng Shuai is not the only one, right? And what happened to her and her nation happens elsewhere. We see in the United States of so many of the female Olympians who came out and talked about how they were abused in training and stuff like that. And that's super dear to me for obvious reasons. But it's coming to a point where people need to put things out so we all as a people can change our course of direction, because it is needed and it's a nasty ass pill to follow. There's no perfect model to go after, but there's also situations where people may put false narratives out there that cause us to respond in a certain way. And sometimes they may not even be aware of it, because they may be getting information that they are not willing to see in a course correcting way. And this is why I opened up with the situation about two individuals who were exonerated from killing Malcolm X. I'm glad that they got cleared. Only one of them is alive now, 80-something years old. Their names were cleared. And it just shows the power of people who actually have the passion to search for the proof, often with no big financial reward or social recognition. But sometimes it makes you think, right? Live for nothing or die for something, right? Or make the words that come out of your mouth worth listening to. Even though some people in your community, outside your community, may not want to hear a damn word you say. People may try to erase you. People may try to keep you stuck in the corner. But if you keep your face in that damn corner and not turn around to take a wider view of opinions in a way that's not selectively blind, maybe you'll be able to take better steps, not only for yourself, but for others. I just wanted to jump in and open up my big mouth, and thanks for those who actually, for the 4 little thumbs up, I really appreciate that. But a lot of things that I do talk about here, a lot of people I know don't comment on it, but I do get a lot of emails, and I really appreciate that. I really do. I really lucky to get some message from 外墙的人, people from outside the wall. I really appreciate that. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing here. And hopefully I'll make your time here worth it. So I'm going to be closing up here because right now it's a little bit after 11 o'clock here in Taipei. And maybe I'll go watch a movie. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And any comments, leave me a note below. Take care. 保重, and remember to stay safe, strong, and healthy wherever you are in the world. 再会.